Today I have with me Matt Tack. Matt Tack, he's got multiple businesses, and they're all focused on human longevity and optimal performance. Now, as you know, franchise maven, I look at franchises all the time in the world of franchising. However, I also like to look at interesting entrepreneurs who are not necessarily in the world of franchising, because franchising is not necessarily for everybody. But when I find a fantastic concept or somebody that's doing something unusual, I like to showcase them as well. And that's why I have Matt Tack on the show today with Full Fueled. So, Matt, I got to ask, what inspired you to start this business?
Yeah, my business partner and I, who is not on here with me today, he actually had another podcast to attend to, but he and I collectively came together, and our mission is to really have everyone live full field lives. And what does that mean? We had to take it at kind of its root bearings, and so we set up some pillars around our lives. So it's movement, fuel, sleep, and mind, spirit, and work. And so we wanted to tap into those pillars in terms of the cadence of how we operate. We believe that when you can tap into certain pillars in your lives, then you can run at a quality cadence. So one of them though is protecting your body. And so we had this really mission of what we saw as like kind of an ailing point of really when people become parents, specifically men, uh, everything is divested into that child or that relationship or that family, and they choose to put their health on the back burner. And then, might 10, 15 years might go by. You're in your mid 40s and you're like, shoot, what happened? What happened to me? And so we like dealing, with that former athletic mindset. A lot of guys might have played high school sports or even collegiate athletics, and they just let time pass them where they focused insanely into work and making money and then providing for their family and kind of lost their health along the way. And so it's really building those building blocks and stabilizing longevity and what longevity looks like and optimized health. So we just broke down a protocol where we can get my guys back into action, where they are living a full field life. So we wanted to make sure they still tapped into all the pillars, but those are the pillars that we focus on within our protocol.
How'd you come up with that concept, the full fueled? Where'd that come from?
Full fueled, I'll tell you what, we we were praying about it. We were trying to figure that out. So my business partner and I, we went into a session of prayer. I'm going to be honest with you, and we're like, what should we call this thing? And so we want this element of fulfillment, but we also want you to be fueled in the process. And so that's blending those two together is that fulfillment layer and that fueled layer of living that optimized lifestyle.
We definitely, based on what you said, my people out there, when they're going into a new concept, whether they're starting a new business or starting a new franchise, optimal performance is great, and being ready for that new adventure is absolutely
Absolutely.
essential in life on there. Uh, so, what is longevity in human performance if we break that down a bit?
Yeah, so typically what we look at is specifically, what you're trying to do and what your main initiative is. A lot of guys, they typically maybe they're overweight or they're dealing with some other cognitive um issue potentially. And I got to really bring it back home. So how we came up with really we wanted to start on ourselves first, like, hey, is there an issue here that other guys might have? And one of the things that we look at the core root is actually your testosterone levels. I know that's becoming a hot topic in today's world, but as men age, typically their testosterone levels are going down. And it could be a various degree of different things, but usually it's just a lack of movement at the end of the day, in type of resistance training. So we call it anabolic training, where we're true believers in building and maintaining muscle. And so human really optimization is really building muscle supply, but then how do we do that? And so we break it down with the blood work first, and we want to make sure that your blood work and taking a look at your blood work is operating at the optimal levels that it should be. And so when we break that down, it's not necessarily the standard average of what every American maybe is operating at, but what should you be operating at? So we really look at the blood work first. And then we look at where you're currently at. Is it more of a sedentary lifestyle, or do you have some movement in there? But we have an app that we essentially program around that, where we build your basically your program mapping for you, so that you don't go to a gym or you don't go into a scenario where you're going to working out with any game plan. We want you to make sure you have a proper game plan to it efficiently and effectively. And so when we build out the protocol, those are the two main things we hone in on. Is number one, how can we understand the kind of the core baseline of where you're at, build that nutritional component, so that you can make better decisions when you're coming to your daily food intake, and then thirdly, and I would say almost most importantly, is what type of vibration or frequency are you putting out every single day, and a lot of that specifically comes from intentional discomfort. That intentional discomfort is resistance training. So I know a lot of people, yeah, I haven't been in the gym a while. I can't figure it out. Well, that's what we're here for. We want to kind of guide you through that process and give you the game plan to make it happen.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's something a lot of us don't really think about. Just go to the gym, work out, and end of story, and that's it. Uh, so what is some of the best nutritional advice uh, that you can give to somebody looking to optimize?
Yeah, we keep it pretty relatively easy. To be honest with you, at the end of the day, is we take a look. Obviously, there's other different factors. There's various allergies that people have out in the world today. But what we think is we want to focus on protein first, high protein, especially as you age. That proteins become a major deficiency in your diet, and so we look at, hey, where's your protein at? So we set a game plan as far as getting the most optimal amount of protein in your diet first. And then we put that in cadence with, how much carbohydrates and fats you should be programming in. But then it's also what you like in terms of protein. Now we try to get lean proteins in the mix. And another added way, just as far as a benefit, there's some just great protein powders out there in the world today that are great supplementary, that we promote. So between getting that protein in your whole food diet, and then specifically as a supplementary item, those are what we focus on first. And then once we create that cadence, we can really add in some of the carbohydrates and the fats where you're operating, because so many people are unaware of how actually nutrients work within the body. But
True.
carbohydrates and fats are stored, so those are utilized for energy and meant to burn. And proteins are meant to really target as amino acids to build muscle. So they work in conjunction with you doing resistance training. Well, you need to feed those muscles with the proper protein intake. And then you're utilizing the carbohydrates and fats as primary fuel sources for a workout, for doing other things. So that's the main thing we work on, is just narrowing in what whole food groups you should be focused on throughout the day, minimizing the snacking, and then ultimately just get you vibrating at a really good frequency.
Well, I take it it's more than just a slab of meat for your protein then.
It's definitely more than a slab of meat for protein. Yeah, because you gotta see, that's what I was even talking to one of our guys the other day,
Yeah.
and he's a major red meat fan, but you also have to understand that red meats, you have to look at how much fats are in the red meat, right? So like, even though you're
True.
getting protein intake from that red meat source,
Mhm.
there's a probably a good amount of fats in there too. And when you break it down, I always tell people, remember, fats are 9 calories per gram. So you have to look at that, because once you incorporate a lot of fats into your diet, your caloric intake goes through the roof. And if you're not burning those off on a daily basis, that's when you're going to be see the excess visceral fat form, and that stuff you just have to work, even a little bit harder to reduce the amount of visceral fat going on in your body. So it's just, that's really what longevity is about, right? How you can maintain optimal human performance for as long as possible, but it's really tough when you're carrying an excess amount of weight.
Yeah, it's easy to put on, and it seems to take a little while longer to get off once you get it there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So what tactical ways are you using to optimize for your typical guy or gal?
Yeah, so what we do is we break down what we call their BMR, so their basic basal metabolic rate, and that basically is just a fancy way of saying how many calories you should be eating based on your movement. So that's one of our pillars, daily movement. Um, and so if there's a sedentary lifestyle, we have to kind of program that in with okay, you only can afford 2 days or 3 days a week of hyper intensive workouts. Well, you need to adjust your caloric intake based on how often what your energy output looks like. And so we'll establish kind of that baseline, that caloric maintenance that we might have to adjust. But ideally, if somebody can get 45 minutes of getting what we call HRV or heart rate variability, where their heart rate is moving and accelerating, that's when you get more caloric burn, and you'll see the visceral fat come off too. The more times you can adjust your heart rate throughout a given day, but basic ways are just really understanding how many calories that you should be consuming on a daily basis. And what we see a lot of times is it's the small things that you just have to, you got to say no to. I always say this, one of your greatest superpowers is saying no to that cookie, right? So like one of the greatest superpowers that somebody could say is like, that doesn't serve me right now. And so when you have the ability to say no to some cookies or even say no to some alcohol, which is just an extra consumption of calories, man, you can really shed some weight and you unleash superpowers that sometimes you didn't even know you had.
I'll attest to that fact. I used to brew my own beer a while back ago, and I seemed to grow a little bit back then because too much in and not enough out wasn't good. That's very true. So, this company that you have, you also have one called Nutritious. What are you doing with that company?
Yeah, so what we have is we actually have a clinic in Tampa, and the clinic is Alessi Functional Health, and that's where the foundation of the brick and mortar kind of fleshes out of. And what we do with Alessi Functional Health specifically is we have the full field labs, which we have chiropractic care in Alessi Functional Health, but we kind of parlay that with infrared saunas and cold plunges, and that's just a recovery mechanism. We really truly believe it's a great detoxing mechanism of the cold plunge for stress, and then the other one just for cardiovascular care. So that's full field labs, and then Alessi Functional Health within that, within our space is the chiropractic care and soft wave technology for people that that might have pain they're struggling with. That ultimately we can help and serve them get out of that pain and have a more optimized lifestyle. And then what we're doing specifically with Nutritious, this is more of a kind of a long term play, but we have that's a more supplementary line where we want to provide a little bit more value for the purposes to the people specifically within our clinic or within our communities. And that's actually we're coming out with a couple of different. It's cool. We're coming out with some gummies. And those are more focused on. It's a different deliverability, but it's
Oh,
focused on muscle enhancement. So we focus the first three creatine. We have a creatine gummy. We have a branch chain amino acid gummy. And then we have a nootropic gummy, which is essentially a more cognitive anti-inflammatory for the body that is mushroom based. So we have lion's mane shiitake
oh,
and reishi kind of mushrooms
yeah.
embedded in the gummies. So we're working on that right now. It's fairly early. We're working on the nutritious side, but we plan kind of on rolling and having a good strong synergy between the three of those companies.
Oh,
But our main home is Alessi Functional Health, which we actually plan on creating a chain or a franchise out of Alessi Functional Health as we build our system. So this is an awesome podcast for that.
good deal. So that's I take it that the Dr. Alfred Alessi, your partner, is doing a lot of that work then with the clinics.
Yeah, so he's hands-on, he operates the clinic, that's where he's at actually right now, Doctor, um, d so we have 2 doctors at that clinic, that are just awesome in their space, and they pretty much handle the day to day within the clinic. So we have a great team over there in Tampa Heights. So if anyone listening is in Tampa Heights, Florida, come check us out. Leslie Functional Health is the spot to be when it comes to all your chiropractic and functional wellness needs.
And if they can't go there, Matt, I understand you have a podcast. What's that all about?
Yeah, so we started up the Full Field podcast, and it was mainly meant to get our mission out of exactly what we've been talking about is what it means to live a full field life. So we try to just focus on that movement, and nutrition, and we focus a lot on muscle, specifically building, and just different ways that you can approach human longevity. So we bring on a lot of really cool guests in terms of doctors and nutritionists that just we would just want to provide value and education.
Always a good thing on that one. Is that part of your community, the optimizers?
Yeah, so what we did was we developed that, and that's kind of where I spearhead.
Mhm.
We have Alessi Functional Health, and then what we wanted to do is just drive more value. And one of the pieces to that was we didn't want to be so focused on just the brick and mortar. We wanted to be able to expand something as an offering. So one of the major things was we just love the idea of community. We love when guys can come together and just do hard things together. And so what we did was we built the optimizers community of guys that were just, hey, I've had enough of it. I'm looking to level up later in life. I want to be a really great dad, or I want to be a great granddad. And I want to be able to get on the ground and move around when I want to. And so that's where we take that protocol and we really establish kind of the foundation for each and every individual that comes in, but then they're partnered up with the community aspect of seeing other guys do it with them. So we have a bunch of guys in that community that we just drive value to, but we set the baseline and the roadmaps for them to be successful.
Excellent. How big is your community so far? You still growing it?
We're still growing it. So we got about 13 guys in that community right now. Mainly honestly entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs that are just looking to optimize their health. And so yeah, a lot of great group of guys just looking to dig in there, level up, and just be more in line with their body and ultimately their longevity.
Cool. What did you guys do before you started all this?
Yeah, so Dr. Alessi, he's been actually a doctor. I partnered up with him about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and he was actually in Colorado Springs before, moved back to Tampa, Florida. What's funny is we went to church together about 7 years ago. I knew him, didn't know him too well. And then we actually met up at a networking community, and we just happened to pass by each other. He's like, "Hey, Matt," and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? How you been?" And so we caught up and we just hit it, and we are the best of friends and now business partners. But so we reconnected. As for me, I actually was in real estate, so I actually invested in real estate
Mhm.
between commercial and residential real estate. And over the past really 7-8 years, I've dove in head first because I wanted, that as I became a dad, I just had this idea of like I don't want to think that my best days are behind me ever. I always want to think my best days are always ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to wrestle around with my girls. So I have three girls. They're 8, 6, and 4. A wife of
Cool.
12 years, and one of those things is I wanted to make sure that I, number one, had vibrancy. Like I felt like I could keep up with them
Yeah.
because obviously they're young,
Yeah.
ambitious, they got a lot of energy. I could get on the ground with them. I could do things that some other dads couldn't. And so one of the things that, it's not all about me, but it's kind of the story behind it is that when I'm at a playground, I'm playing with my kids. You will not see me on the phone. You'll see me sliding down slides with my kids. You'll see me running, chasing after them because I want to keep up. I want to live in that heartbeat of their moments to have them more experiential. So it's really important just to me as a dad to really live that out. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do at Live Full Field is, you know, protect the next generation by by really being able to experience things with their kids and with their grandkids.
Cool. That's an awesome story, man. I love it. Good reasons too. Yeah, kids got a lot of energy. You got to be able to keep up with them. So, yeah,
That's right.
I hear you. So, how can our community start following you?
Yeah, so we have I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find me Matthew Tack or Matt, I think it's yeah, Matthew Tack on Facebook. I do a lot of posting on there. We have I actually go by human.optimizer on Instagram. So it just runs in. And then Dr. Lessie is full fueled underscore doc. So full fueled doc. You'll be able to find him. And then we have a website. It's fullfuel.com, where you can find our podcast and everything else that we have to offer.
I will send my community over there. Sounds like something everybody needs to do is make sure they're healthy and can live a nice long life so that they can play with their grandkids and their great grandkids.
That's right.
Right. Matt, anything else we should know before I let you go?
No, I mean, really, all I want is, let's live our best and full fueled life that we can. If we can give one recommendation uh, to anyone out there, is there's no better than today to start. There's you have today. It's what the day we've been given. It's the presence of today that we can make the best decision today. It's what we got, and you can start today. So that's all I got.
I
I
agree
appreciate you
totally.
having us on, Greg.
Thanks for being here, Matt. Great information, and I'll get that out to all my people.
I appreciate you.